I'm here with Hannah Nall, who is a senior on the women's golf team at Lee University. Their season will begin next week at the World Golf Invitational. And Hannah is currently ranked the number 11th Division II individual woman golfer, and her team is ranked number 7th as a team for Division II women's golf. Thanks for your time, Hannah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So your season is going to begin, next week, St. Augustine, Florida. You go to Flaggers tournament. So how has the 3 month break been for you since the end of the fall season? Just how have you been navigating? Now here in Georgia, we've had a lot of cold. I'm sure you've had, some cold and even maybe a little snow in Tennessee recently.
Yeah, the 3 month break was good. I think it's a really good time to like recharge, reset, because we know the spring's very demanding. That's like our main season. So I spent a lot of time with family and just enjoying the holidays. And then also I like to spend that 3 month break really like getting into technique. So I see my swing coach very often. Because it's harder for me to see him when we're in season because, we're just always qualifying and having team practice and we have to be really flexible with the weather, like you said. So I don't get to see him as much in the spring as I'd like. So I probably saw him like every 2 weeks over break and then enjoyed the holidays. And then right around the new year, I played a tournament down in Florida to try and escape some of the cold, even though it wasn't that bad up in Tennessee around Christmas time. It was like 70 degrees, but it got cold once January hit. So I had a tournament at the very beginning of the year and just to like knock some rust off and get back into like tournament mode. And I think that was really good. And it's really good to get ready for qualifying. Because the qualifying is basically like a tournament. So, but yeah, it was good, good family time, good deep work like with my swing, and then I got to play a tournament over the break.
Yeah, so two questions from what you said, because I've talked with a lot of college golfers. You mentioned you went to Florida and played in one tournament over the winter. For
Mhm.
you, because you're a senior now, do you usually compete, over the winter, or was this something different, or was it very, over the winter, do you usually like to stay competitive, just work in your game, take a break? How do you usually handle the winter?
Yeah, so usually my plan for the break is we usually get done like the last week of October. And then November, we switch to 8 hour weeks. Like in the NCAA, when you're in all season, you're only on 8 hour weeks. And during season, we're on 20 hour weeks. So in November, we only have two practices a week. So I kind of just like chill out during November and get ready for finals and focus more on school than golf. And I'll just do those school practices twice a week and then like maybe go see my swing coach a little bit, get through finals. And then that's when I really hit it hard with my swing coach up in Knoxville. And once I get past the holidays, I go play in that tournament. It's called College Tour X. So if anyone watching, if you struggle finding college tournaments, that's a really good tour that I've always relied on during my college career. They have some in the summer, and then they always do two in the winter. So it's good to do. Actually, quick funny story. My dad runs that tour because when I committed to Lee,
Okay.
um he wanted to get me more like Wagger ranked tournaments because all of the college tournaments are Wagger ranked, and he was like there's not many options for college players like there are junior athletes, so I might just start something and see where it goes. And so when he first started it, there wasn't many players in the field, but it was just enough to let it be Wagger ranked. But over the past like 5 or 6 years, it's really blown up. And his tournament in Florida in January is his biggest actually, and it's really good. So I've always played that one in college in the winter, and then I do the ones in the summer. But navigating the cold, it's tough. Lee, we don't have an indoor facility, because we're a smaller D2, but even though that could be seen as a negative, I see it as a positive because it makes us tougher. So when like a lot of schools are cozy in their simulators, we're out facing the cold. So the only coach tells us at the beginning of the spring season, we all have a team meeting, and she's like, you need to be flexible and you need to be positive because unless the course calls and tells us they are closed, you will be out there. And so yeah, we've been facing it. That we had to cancel this past weekend because we got some snow on Saturday and then it didn't get above freezing on Sunday. But yesterday we were out there and there was some leftover snow on the ground and we hit the range and did some putting drills. We couldn't play because there was still snow on the greens. But yeah, it's a little tough. I do wish we had like our own indoor facility. I know Lee's talking about getting something into the works for that in the future. But there's goods and bads to it. I think it makes us tougher because yesterday it was like 45 degrees out, and my whole team and I were saying how we're kind of actually warm because we've been
Okay.
out in like 30-degree weather. So I think when we get to Florida, there's going to be some players that are like, oh my gosh, we're used to Florida weather and now it's like 45 degrees. This is awful. And we're going to be like, this is paradise. Let's put our skirts on. So I think there's good to it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned getting snow. Even here in Georgia, we got snow Saturday night. So you mentioned that your team doesn't have an indoor facility, and so does your team, obviously when there's snow out, the golf course is closed, so you can't practice outdoors. But if the golf course is open, even if it's closed, is your coach's mentality for your team to be out there, if you can with your schedule, be out there practicing or playing mostly?
Yeah, definitely. If there's a
Okay.
way, Coach G is gonna find it. And we actually got lucky this year because just recently, some people local in the Cleveland area, they opened indoor batting cages and golf simulators, and they have TrackMans, and they're not even open yet. They're supposed to open in a couple weeks or maybe a month. But Coach G reached out to them and was like, "Hey, my girls have a tournament next week. We need somewhere just to hit, just to get some reps in. It's nothing crazy. Is there any way we can come in even though you're not open?" And they're like, oh my gosh, of course. So we had some very nice people help us out this past week, and we went in there when it was a little too cold to be outside. But if it's over, like if it's like 35 degrees and up, like we're out there, we're outside, we're facing the cold. But so yeah, and it's funny because Coach G's from Brazil, so you'd think she'd be like hibernating right now, but she's out there with us.
Yeah. And finally, about the weather, right now you're going out there unless if the course is open, you're out there with your team, playing, practicing most days. But was that, was that your mentality growing up in Tennessee before you went to college, or is that, shifted with
It,
your team?
it's it's shifted. We were playing last week, and I was paired with one of my teammates, Gabby. She's a freshman on our team, and it was so cold out. And I just looked at her, and I was like, in high school, like I didn't touch a club till March. Like I stayed inside. I went to school, and I just did whatever I wanted. And then like towards the end of March is when I started practicing again. And I told her how my freshman year when I got here, um, coach told us like, we're going to be out there. And I was like, no way we're going to be out there. Like it's freezing. She wasn't kidding. So it's definitely changed. I probably start like 2 months earlier than I used to in the year. So
Yeah, great. So now let's talk about your fall season. As I mentioned, your team is number seventh for Division II women's golf. You're number 11 individually. Your team, your fall season was highlighted by you got victory at Savannah Lakes Invitational, and you finished first individually. So talk to me both about, that tournament, Savannah Lakes, because you finished first and your team finished first. And just overall, how would you assess your team's fall season?
so the fall season I think was really good. We like to play around more in the fall. We try and have more individuals come and whatever because we like to get everyone a chance to like play in a tournament setting. And that second tournament of the year was really unique because we have 8 girls on the team, so we take 5 in the lineup, and then I think Lander hosted, and they were sweet enough to let us have 3 individual spots for the other girls on our team. So we all were there, which is like very rare. I don't think that's ever happened to me before, since being here. And yeah, so we were just playing, and I know, I think it was after the whole entire 36 holes on Monday. I don't think I looked at the scoreboard in between, but after the 36 hole day, me and my teammate were like neck and neck, like first and second, or like first and third, whatever. Like we were right on each other's heels. And I've been very blessed with a team that I have a couple girls on the team that like are really good as well. And so we push each other. And so I think that was good for both of us. So on Tuesday morning, before we teed off, my teammate, her name's Amelia, she was the one that was like neck and neck with me. I walked over to her, and I told her good luck. And I was just like, if it's not me winning, I want it to be you to go out there and like go and take it. And it was really fun. It was fun to like, just feed off of that energy. And because, we're right next to each other, like she was right in the group in front of me. So like I'd see it when she make birdies, and I'm like, oh, I want to beat her. So let me make a birdie. So it was a really cool like energy that day. And then I can't remember exactly, but I think like as a team after Monday, we were in the lead by like a good little bit. And so we just knew like don't let off the brakes, like keep pushing, just keep, treat it like every shot like it counts because it obviously does. And yeah, we won that thing. So it was really fun. And it was awesome because everybody was there, and it's a great one of my greatest memories being here.
Yeah, you mentioned good energy and just, your teammates were all there because you had three individuals. Are you pretty close with your other teammates, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. Very close. We have really good team chemistry, and then obviously like there's a few girls on the team I gravitate more towards the others, but we all have a really good time, and when we're lifting weights together, we're all like singing along to the music, pushing each other to do better. When we're on bus rides, we're turning a movie on in the Sprinter and having a good time. And it's really, really fun. And then some of the girls on the team I've become so close with, like I've like traveled the world with them. Last summer I went to Brazil with my coach and two of my teammates. And then in May, I'm going to Paris with two of my teammates because one of my teammates it lives in Paris, and she was like, "Do y'all want to come stay with me in the summer?" And I was like, yeah. So yeah, we're really close, and I'm sad that it's my last semester with them, but I know that these friendships will last past college.
Yeah, it's pretty cool going to Paris and Brazil where your coach is from. So those are pretty cool
Yeah.
memories. As you mentioned, this will be your senior spring season. Your spring season begins less than a week. It'll begin next week, St. Augustine, Florida, for your first spring
Mhm.
tournament. So just what are you looking forward to this spring, being your senior spring season?
Um, I set some goals with coach a couple weeks ago. We had an individual meeting, and she's like, "What are your goals for like this last semester?" And my first one is just like have fun and enjoy every little thing, even if it's a cold practice outside with my team. And I normally wouldn't want to be there. Well, I know in a year I'm going to look back in January, I'm going to be having a job inside, and I'm be like, dang, I wish I was outside with my friends, hitting golf balls or whatever. And then I also want to be present. I feel like in the past I've really struggled with looking a lot into ranking, scoring average, what's coming up, who's going to be at this tournament, what teams are going to be there. And I get really in my head with numbers because I'm a very competitive person. And, I mean, I wouldn't say it hasn't paid off, like kind of doing that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I just feel like it's more important just to be present in the moment, one shot at a time, and just enjoying everything and being where my feet are and not looking ahead to like May and what's going to happen at the Natty or in postseason when different accolades and awards come out. Like, well, I get it, whatever. I just wanna handle me, and I know whatever happens happens. So those are kind of
Yeah.
my goals.
So I'm pretty intrigued by you said you're a numbers person and sometimes you can get into your head. For next week's tournament, I believe I could be wrong, but I believe I looked at the team rankings and your team is going to be the top ranked team in Division Two women golf at that, going into the tournament. If I say something like that, because I think I'm correct, but I could be wrong. If I say something like your team is the top team, ranked rise going into the tournament next week, does that get into your head? Does that set too many expectations, or is that, not a big deal for you?
Well, no, no, it's not a big deal. Like when others say it, like I mean, it's just a fact. Like, yeah, we are the highest ranked team, so there is an underlying like assumption that we should just go and win. But then also it's golf, so anything can happen. And some teams that you don't think are much of a threat or don't think are near as talented as we are can just have a week and then they can just swoop in. So I think it's actually good that like I talk with others about it and I let them say their piece and like be like, oh, you guys are the highest ranked team. Like it's nice to know, but I've learned really well over these past 4 years that like once I'm out there though, like we're all starting at even par and it's anybody's game. Like every team's going to start even. So it doesn't matter what clip says you are. How are you that day? So, but no, that doesn't bother me. I can, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the highlights for your spring season, your team will host at Cleveland Country Club the regionals at the end of your spring season. I believe I talked with your coach last time because I believe it was not last year but the year before your team hosted, and then I think last year was somewhere in Georgia regionals for your team. So just tell me about your home course, Cleveland Country Club, and just what it'll be like. I think hosting regionals later this spring.
Yeah. So Cleveland is interesting. It it's really I think it sets up really well for girls, maybe not as well for guys because it is like shorter for guys to play, but for girls it's a really good
To cut you off
distance.
for a minute,
Yeah.
isn't your guys' team pretty good, like highly
Oh
ranked?
yeah. I could be wrong, but last I saw they're ranked number one in the country and they won a
Okay.
natty the year before I got here. So I
So
got
top
there
team
and
in the country, but their home course doesn't set up for them.
well, it's actually funny. Whenever they do qualifying, they do these things called inferno tees. So, like for example, like hole seven's a par five, and all of our holes are kind of on top of each other. So they'll tee off from like 11's tee box to play 7. So like they have their own
Okay.
set of tees to make it longer. So they make it work for them. But they also
To
travel
make it
around a
longer,
lot.
is your home course, is it a short course or not too bad? Medium?
I don't think it's too bad. Like for girls, like we play the blues. And so I think that's like 6,100 or whatever. But the tips, I'm not exactly sure. I could look it up, but I think like
Okay.
that's just around like 7,000. And I mean, those guys they hit it far. So I'm I'm not exactly sure, but they do some things to make it longer, and then they also travel around and do a lot of different They go to Council Fire a lot. They go to some other courses and they do some different things. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but for our course, like it's a lot like placement golf. Like the first 4 holes, everyone says they just try and get through at 1 over par because it's the hardest stretch of the course, and it's like tough when you're starting on the hardest part. But I think it's really challenging, and it's a good test, and then also um there is a little pressure when you're hosting because we have people from the community and members from the club. They come out and they're working the like water station, or they're spotting balls on certain holes, and then you walk by and they're like, how's it going, like how are you doing, is it going well? And you have all these people around. We have people from the athletic department at Lee that come out and watch, or different sports teams that come and support us, and so we definitely just feel it a little more. But when we hosted last time, it worked out. We advanced to the Natty, and then when we were away in Georgia the other 2 times at regionals, we didn't. So I think it kind of lights a fire under us because we're like, we need to protect home. We're not going to let all these other teams come in here and then they go to the Natty and we don't, and we're here every day. So it's different. It's also like, something you have to work on mentally, but it's a really good challenge, and it's also really fun.
Yeah, like how, you feel some pressure, but you're able to, deal with that when hosting regionals at home. You just mentioned
Mhm.
2024 at your home course. Your team, advanced through regionals and advanced to the national championship. Just how special was that in 2024 at your home course, to make it to the national championship?
Oh my gosh, it was awesome because the year before my freshman year, we missed out making it to the Natty. They take the top 5 and we were 6th. And I don't remember exactly how many shots we were off, but it wasn't many. And that really just like hurt all of us. And so then when we were at home the next year, we actually started out the first 9 holes of regionals that year. We were in dead last. We started awful, and I had an awful first 9. I like shot in the 40s, and I remember my assistant came up to me, and I was like super upset. I wasn't even talking, and he was just like, "You're the type of player where you can go out here and shoot a 33 on this side, so go do it." And I did, and so we all had a very strong finish that first round, and we kind of got us back into it. And coach was proud. She was like, if you looked at the scoreboard like right when you guys started, we all would have thought, let's just pack up our bags and get in the van and go home. But you guys just stuck with it and stayed strong. And I'm really proud of you. And then I'm pretty sure we had a really good moving day. And then that final round, I remember I was coming up 18 and I was on the green, and my assistant was with me, and he looked at me and he was like, "Are you ready to go compete for a national championship?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, did we make it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so I finished, and then our last player, she was in the group behind me. Her name was Yui. She's an awesome player. I remember I like turned around after I made my putt, and I like looked at her and I cheered, and I was like, "Let's go, Yui!" And we all watched her finish, and it was super fun. It was a great feeling getting that big ticket punched NCAA poster. And yeah, it was really, really cool. And I know we're gonna do it again this year. I have a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely sounds pretty cool. Something that you mentioned that I think would be good to get your advice on was you mentioned shooting 40 on the front 9. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you have a bad start, like shooting 40 on the front 9, you mentioned being, upset, hard on yourself. Just how do you deal with when you're in a tournament, maybe like, the front 9, you know, let's say in a tournament you have, 54 holes, the front 9, you have whatever that is,
Yeah.
45 more holes left. After that, you have a bad front 9. Just how do you navigate and deal with that when, your first 9 holes don't go the way you wanted to?
Yeah, I used to be really bad at this. I used to get in my head all the time in junior golf, and like the second something went wrong, I was like, "Oh, it's over for me." Like I'm like, if I hit a bad shot, I'd be like, "Oh, well, I have a slice today. Like that's great or whatever." But actually, once I got to college, it's completely changed. We actually meet with a mental coach monthly and talk about this kind of stuff. and I feel like the kind of stuff I've done with him has really changed everything. So mainly like I know golf is an imperfect game, and there's no way everyone is going to do exactly what they want every time. And so I've really embraced the fact that like I'm going to mess up and I'm going to make mistakes, but all that matters is like, can you let go? So like if I have a bad hole or I hit a really bad shot or a three putt, whatever it may be, I allow myself like that walk to like the next tee box or the next like wherever the ball is, whatever. I allow myself that walk to just like really be hard on myself and be like, Hannah, are you kidding? And then by the time like I park my push cart and then I start getting ready for the next shot, like I just leave it behind. So I kind of move on and then also do some like breathing techniques that like my mental coach has talked to me about like while walking and then also in my pre-shot routine that I really think help clear my head. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. That's all. I think that's the hardest part of golf is just the mental because we're playing an imperfect game, and also it's so even though I'm on a team, like you're out there by yourself. It's not like basketball where you have all these other girls to, like feed off of all at one time. Like it's you're out there alone, even though you're still on a team. So it's really easy to get caught up in like me, and I'm shifting my mindset to like even though I messed up, like I can still help out this team and how can I show up for them?
Yeah, that was very interesting to hear that you as a college golfer are working with a mental coach. I've not
Yeah.
heard that too often, but very interesting to hear. So you're a local player. You're from Cleveland, Tennessee, and obviously Lee University is in Cleveland, Tennessee. So just tell me about, growing up in Tennessee in Cleveland. You went to Cleveland High School, and just tell me a little bit about growing up in Tennessee and just your start in golf.
Yeah, so my start in golf, actually, I was growing up in Mississippi.
Oh, okay,
My dad worked at this college called Delta State. It's actually in our conference right now. I don't know if it was D2 when he worked there because it would have been like 2006 or something. He worked at that university and he would always after work go out to the Delta State, like their the course their college team would practice at. And I was like 2 years old and he would bring me and there were so many photos of me just like holding his like giant clubs and me just walking along with him. And so that's kind of how it started. My dad, because he grew up playing and I think he was an okay golfer. He was all right, but he didn't play in college or anything. So that's kind of how I started. And then we moved to a place called Starkville, Mississippi, because my dad took a job at Mississippi State. And
okay,
that's when I really got into it. I played a ton of US kids tournaments. I got a swing coach at like the age of like 6. And it was like, I was like, this is our thing. Like Hannah's going to play golf. So that's kind of how it started. And then on weekends, once I kind of wanted to do more than just little US kids local events, we discovered that up in this area in Tennessee, Atlanta, like North Georgia and stuff, there's like a ton of tournaments. And so there was this one tour, it was called AJGT. And this man named Danny ran it. And I would go every weekend, like on Fridays, I'd get out of school or sometimes miss school if I wanted to do a practice round. And we'd drive up to like Cleveland, Chattanooga, um, Atlanta, everything, and playing all these tournaments. And so after like 2 years of doing that, my dad was like, honestly, like up there is like a better area. I think there's more opportunity for golf. And I wanted to get us out of Mississippi. There wasn't really much here. So when I was 12, we moved to Cleveland and it was nice. I was a lot closer to a lot of different uh, tournaments and courses. And it was cool because I've actually played so many of these courses already. Like I'd play Brown Acres and Harrison Bay and all that way before I even moved up here. And now they're like 20 minutes from my house. So that's how we got to Cleveland. And
okay.
then when it came to, did you ask me how I ended up at Lee? Is that what it was?
That'll be my next question. But if you can just
Okay.
talk about, because you're you grew up in Mississippi, but then when you were 12, as you just mentioned, you've lived in Cleveland since you were 12. So, was your goal always, living in Cleveland, local school, go to Lee, or did you want to go to another school, or were you not sure, going into college, or just deciding where you
Um,
wanted to go?
Yeah, so I did not want to stay in Cleveland. I wanted to get so far away. In high school, I feel like me and my parents, that was like the phase, like I was like, oh, I want to get away from them. I need to move out. I need to be far. And so I always would tell them like I'm going to the farthest school that will have me or
So if
whatever.
you mentioned at first you wanted to go to a different school other than Lee, get out of Cleveland, Tennessee, then what drew you to choose to ultimately, go to Lee University?
Yeah, because I was being recruited during COVID. So in 2020, that summer was when schools could start reaching out to me.
Okay.
And they had the rule at like D1 that you can't right, like for the time being you couldn't go on visits. You could just like call like recruits up and just like talk to them, but I couldn't go visit anywhere. So I was talking to all these different D1 schools and they were like, "Yeah, we can't have you on a visit just yet. Sorry, but we're very interested, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, thanks." So then Coach Maupin, he's our athletic director now at Lee, but he was the director of golf for men's and women's golf. I grew up in Cleveland since I was 12, so he's seen me out at the country club. He knows me and my family. He reached
Okay.
out and he was like, "We'd love to have you for a visit." And even though we know you're from Cleveland, you probably know about Lee, but like we want to have you come in, like take you on a deep tour of the school and get to know you a little bit even better. And I told my dad, I was like, "I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go to Cleveland. I mean, I don't want to go to Lee. That's right up the road." And he was like, "Well, I mean, you can't go on visits anywhere else, so it won't hurt. Just go do it." So I was like, "Okay." So I went on a visit, and that was my first time ever on campus at Lee, even though I'm from Cleveland. There was no need for me to be there. So I toured it, and I was like, "Wow, this is like really pretty. Like, I really like it." And I've always loved Coach Maupin. He's a really great guy, and he's a good like really strong in his faith, and he's just a good person. Someone I would love to have worked with through college. So I loved talking with him. And then that day he offered me, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" Because all the other D1 schools were telling me, "We have seniors coming back. We're not going to have money. So, like, you could be a walk on and then we can give you a scholarship after your first year." But that's not like appealing. Like, my whole life, I've worked to get a scholarship to play college golf. So that first day when he offered me, I was like, "Wow, like this is so different from what I've experienced." And so I went home and I talked about it with my dad, and he was like, "They know what they want and they know they want you, and they're not like playing around." And all these other schools, just because like the time that it is COVID, everything's up in the air. Like, we're not getting good answers. So I don't think it would hurt if you went. And I was like, "You know what? Like, me neither. Like, I really liked it when I went, and I was really attracted to like they knew what they wanted. They weren't just giving me like half answers." So I committed, and it was the best thing. I love it, and I honestly think like COVID was so bad, but that was one good thing to come of it, because I truly think I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for like being recruited during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear that, initially thought you wanted to go to like to a Division I school and COVID had, impact on just your decision to ultimately choose, to go to Lee University. At first, my next question, at first you were hesitant, to go to Lee University, or you didn't want to go to Lee, but now you're a senior. Your past 4 years, have you enjoyed so far your time at Lee and just, your
Yes.
coaches and teammates?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love it. There's even so much more than just coaches and teammates, but yeah, well, my Coach G came in my freshman year and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to be the head coach." And I was like, "You didn't recruit me. I don't know you. I'm scared." But
So
I
was
tell her
that
all
was
the
that
time.
adjustment, pretty easy, difficult, or just okay, having a new coach your freshman year?
It was, well, I never was coached by Coach Maupin. I was just recruited by him, but I've always done my
Okay.
talking to him. So then when I got on campus, well, I had met Coach like a little bit during that summer and we chatted or whatever, but I always had this doubt in my mind that like she didn't recruit me. So like I feel like I have to prove myself all over again. And so that was kind of like something that bogged me down a little. But like once we got into that fall season of my freshman year, and we got into our routine and like I became really good friends with my teammates, and then Coach G is like a second mom to me. I was like, "Wait, this is way better than I think me and Coach Maupin would have been." Like, it's really nice being coached by a woman also. Like, I really like that idea too. So I think it was a blessing in disguise because I didn't know that was going to happen, but I tell her all the time like I'm really grateful that it happened how it did. And then my teammates, I mean, I've made so many friends. I'm still in touch with some that have already graduated, and then I'm really close to the ones now. Academically, like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of school, but I've had great professors, great teachers. I've made great friends in the classroom. And then also my living situation with roommates, I've met my best friends in the whole world, because I was randomly put together with a basketball player my freshman year, and we've been together for 4 years, and she's like a sister to me. So I think there was a lot in making Lee what it is. It isn't just the golf or the coaching or whatever. It's like there's so much good about it that I've been happy with my decision ever since I got here.
Yeah. So I just had a few more questions, but I looked at, you mentioned you met at Lee, you've met different people, like even you roomed with a basketball player on your team. You have, teammates from different countries like Sweden, France, and Canada, and you have even a teammate from Alaska. So what has it been like, it's at Lee getting to meet, different people and having, teammates from, places like Alaska, Canada, France, Sweden, different even countries.
Yeah, it's really neat. Our we blend really well, even though we're all different cultures and different backgrounds. I've learned so much. I've learned some French a little bit. Sometimes at practice, I'll just be like, Leanne, like, spit me out some French, and then I'll work on some French while I'm doing a gauntlet. Or, I talked to Amelia, who's from Sweden, and she's like, guys, I made Swedish brownies. Like, do you want me to bring them to practice? And I'm like, yeah, bring that. It's so fun. There's so many things I've learned through this, and different cultures I've got to experience, even though I'm right here in Cleveland. And then also, like, Coach G, she's an international from Brazil. I got to go to Brazil and experience that. And then I get to experience Paris in May, which I'm very blessed and thankful for. So I think it's really, really neat. And I really enjoy it. And I think it's cool to see how everyone approaches things differently, and whatever. And yeah, it's really cool. We mesh really well, even though it sounds super crazy.
Yeah. So as one of the, you're one of the top Division II women's golfers in the country. You're a senior now. So what advice might you give to an aspiring, college golfer, let's say like a high school golfer or a junior golfer? This can be anything like, advice you would give about, academics, traveling, competing in tournaments. Just, what advice would you give if you were going to talk with like a high school golfer or, a junior golfer right now who has aspirations to play college golf?
Yeah. I feel like when I was growing up in junior golf, there was so much pressure on like how to be recruited, how to be seen. And I was under the impression in high school and like late middle school that what is that? Oh, AJGA, that big junior golf. Oh, I missaid it earlier. I did not play in AJGAs when I was little. It was AAJGT. Anyways, I was under the impression that AJGAs were like you need to play in those, and they're huge for being discovered, whatever. I feel like that's really far from the truth. I don't know if they're even a big deal nowadays because I've been out of junior golf for so long. But yeah, I think like as long as you're just making sure that you're playing enough like ranked events, and also just like getting your name out there, like even if you're not of age to like be like for coaches to contact you, you can still contact them. So you can email them, hey coach, like my name's blah blah blah, I'm from here, I'm interested in your program, here's my schedule, and here's a swing video, here's a little bit about me. And you might not get a response, but that might just be because they can't respond. And then also something I did a lot of like their prospect camp. So I remember I went to Tennessee, I went to an Auburn one. I might have went to a few more, but I can't really remember. But I know I did Tennessee and Auburn. They usually have them in like summers, I think. I think that's really good exposure, and it's nice to see kind of like what it's like to be a college athlete, because then it's good to know, is that really what you want? And it's okay if it isn't, because it is really demanding. But I would just say that. And then also something I struggled with when I got to college. I was always like in high school golf and whatever, like I was always like the best, and I feel like I didn't really have to try. And then when I got to college golf, it's like, oh, all of these people were the best at where they came from. Like all these people are good. And so it was a weird adjustment. Like my freshman year, I was always the fifth girl. I was never the one seed in the lineup or anything. I was always like the five or the four. And it was just weird my freshman year being like, wow, like I'm not really the best anymore. But then that's how you know you're on a good team, because you have a ton of players around you who are pushing you to be better and everything too. So that's something I would maybe prepare for if you are about to go to college, is to prepare for like that mentality of like you've always been number one or the best. It's going to shift, and it'll make you doubt yourself, but like you'll get your footing, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I really like your advice about just reaching out to coaches, going to camps. That was a good experience for you. I'll end on this, just final question. Just tell me what have been some of your, favorite things or memories about, attending Lee and just playing college golf.
Definitely winning conference my freshman year was amazing. Making it to the Natty my sophomore year was
Yeah.
was really memorable. And then last year I got golfer of the year and All-American honorable mention. That's been on my goal list ever since I got here, so it was really nice being able to get that.
Have there been any, favorite memories outside of your awards or, scores in tournaments, just
Yeah,
with your
yeah.
teammates?
We always do a spring break trip every year where
Okay.
we play in a tournament down in Florida, and sometimes we'll like go to the beach for a day or just hang out by the pool, do whatever. It's really fun hanging out with them. And like my favorite things are just like the bus rides. Like we play music and we're all
I
doing
was going to
homework
ask to
together.
St. Augustine, are you guys driving? I saw it's like 7.5 hours, or are you going to fly?
Yeah, we drive. Yeah, we drive everywhere. We only
Oh, it'll be like
flew
8 hours. What do you do for an 8 hour car ride or whatever?
homework. We have a sprinter, so there's a TV, so we'll turn on movies. We'll
Okay.
listen to music. Um, I like to read, so I'll read on the bus or whatever. But yeah, well, last year we went to Boca, one tournament in the summer, and we drove. It was like 11 and a half hours. So
Jeez.
yeah, it's crazy.